how this whole thing is set up is huge. So the quicker the players can turn their shoulders and set the racket, less is going to go wrong. And it's critical, especially for young kids, if they got to change things, that the preparation, because A kind of leads to B, B to C, and C to D. So if you prepare late, a lot of things are going to go wrong, and I'm going to explain kind of what goes wrong and what we want to try to do. Okay, right off the bat. And another thing that came up, a lot of people were asking about the grip. Let me explain. The grip orientates the racket face. What that means is how you hold the racket, or your students hold the racket, that orientates the racket face in a certain position. It might cause more spin, less spin. It has nothing to do with the mechanics about what I'm talking. Sure, you might have to manipulate the wrist angle if you had used a continental grip or whatever, but the racket's still going to flip. It's going to do everything that I'm going to say. So the grip has absolutely nothing to do with the mechanics I'm going to show you. The follow-through has absolutely nothing to do with what I'm talking about. The follow-through is more of a teaching tool. You can have people follow through here, here. You can do Rafa, you can go this way, that way, other way, I don't know what way. You can do whatever you want, all right? But as a coach, as a teacher, you got to experiment. It's not one size fits all. You know, I can't sit here and say, you know, go here like Roddick did, or do this like the Dow, or come over the shoulder like Agassi. You got to figure that out, because the follow-through, what I would do is I use that as a teaching tool. And I figure out that day, on that shot, with that person, do I need to change the follow-through, or do I use it as a corrective technique to get them to hit more spin, less spin, whatever. And that's why it's hard to look at a photograph and say, look at that follow-through. You don't know how fast the ball came. You don't know where the guy was standing. You don't know where he was hitting it. We don't even know if the ball went in or out. It could have went in the bleachers. So, you know, I think you got to really be careful. And what I'm trying to do is I'm going to give you the backdrop of how the stroke, the optimal way to hit a forehand and backhand at the highest level. You're going to see more and more females do this as time goes on. I think Hennen did it more back in the day, what I'm talking about. It's interesting, her coach studied video of Agassi for 5 years. Interesting comparison, because a lot of the pieces, the way Hennen hit her ground stroke, she could stand on that baseline, make the racket flip, go toe-to-toe with Venus or Serena, and not lose any ground, and never really be late. Kuznova is kind of close. Stosur kind of does it a little bit, even though she flips the racket to flip it the other way. So there are some people out there that do this, even on the women's side. This isn't about making your stroke shorter. That's not what this is about. Anybody can tell you shorten your backswing. That's a great tip if you need to. But you're going to get something for free. The stroke is going to be shorter, but the racket's going to go faster. That's the name of the game. When it's all said and done, how hard can you hit the ball and keep it in the court? And that's what you see on television. 8, 10, 12, 50 miles an hour. How hard can you get, how much racket speed can you get on your serve and get it in? That's the difference as you see the levels going up. The quality of the consistency. That's the name of the game. Now, on the forehand ground stroke, critical. From the baseline, when the ball comes over, as you heard Brian talk about, John talk about, it's more of a unit turn where the shoulders should initiate the backswing. Very important that the shoulders are going to initiate the backswing. I like to have a lot of kids don't move their feet, which, believe me, a lot of them are very good at that. I don't even have to move their feet. I just want them to feel the upper body turn and keep the feet still for a second, just so they can feel a twist. Because when kids get this in their hand, it's going back to Ohio or wherever. It's just going to take off. They're not used to playing with the bigger muscles. The racket dominates the child, okay? Inertia takes over, and the racket wins every time. Every time. And the tennis shot is hit with the bigger muscles, even though I'm going to talk about the muscle mechanics of the arm. The bigger muscles run the show. And so when John and Brian this morning were talking about the stroke and talking about the mechanics of the swing, never forget, the power starts from the ground. The legs dry, their legs are bent, the knees are bent. If you don't want to bend, you're in the wrong sport. That's what I tell all the kids. If you're not going to push down, see, when you push down and then you come up, that makes the hips go faster. That's the way it works. Whether you're hitting a golf ball, tennis ball, baseball, the power starts from the ground. So when we talk about the swing, I don't want you to think that we're talking about, even though I'm talking about the arm movements. The legs and the hip run the show, especially on this stroke that I'm going to show you. Bending is a premium. Loading up is a premium here. Very, very important. So we got the unit turn. We take the racket all the way back. What we like to tell people, feel a stretch on the left side of the body. Feel a stretch on the left side of the body when you take it back. If you can feel the stretch on the left shoulder, you'll probably have the racket back to the optimal position. Now, all that being said, when you take it back, you want to take it back, but you want the elbow position. Not to really, obviously you don't want it to disappear and go on the other side of the body. That's going to be too far. We turn all the way. Left hand's on the throat. The racket head can be vertical, straight up and down. A little bit, it doesn't matter. The grip will orientate even this part. So there's not, everybody's going to have their own little idiosyncrasies or whatever. But as a rule of thumb, you do the unit turn, there's going to be space here. Because the elbow, biomechanically on everything, forehand, backhand, serve, overhead, I can go on and on. The elbow tells us everything about how this whole thing's going to come together. The elbow is the big ticket item in the hand path. So, the unit turn, you're going to form the letter L, a 90-degree angle here. You might see little flares, some guys will be a little bit more like this, but in general, that's what I'm speaking about here, the parameters. You want space here. This is critical, because here's what's going to happen. Most of the players that you have, they're going to go, and I'm not saying it's wrong, they've been taught to turn sideways. The elbow is probably going to be too close to the body. They've been taught to make a loop, an arc, rainbow, banana, candy cane, Ferris wheel, whatever they've been taught to do. They're going to have the elbow close to the body. They're going to turn their shoulders. They're going to go like this. They're going to bend their knees, and they're going to swing low to high. And that looked pretty good. But that's not what we're talking about. When the elbow is too close, the way the joint angle is going to work is going to go this way. I've never seen anybody in do what I'm going to explain next. If you're in, you're going this way. That's what we call the inside. This is the inside. When the racket goes this way. This is the inside. And if your elbow's too close, you're going to go that way. It's just the way it works. You're going to make the radius of your swing probably a little bigger, which is fine, no problem. Listen, if the ball's slow, we're all pretty good. That's what I figured out. It ain't getting slower as you get older. Yes. Technique is a premium. Preparation's a premium. If you can't move, golf. I tell everybody the same. If you don't want to move, golf. Right? So if you don't want to do these things, and the mechanics of the stroke, it's so much different. And preparation is at an all-time high. You look at Fed. Before the ball gets over there, he's back there like this. Before the ball hits the service line, he could be eating a sandwich. He's like this, waiting for the ball, and it's not even to the service line. Now, what I'm talking about is the meat and potatoes from the backcourt. Running forward, obviously that's a different animal. You don't need to turn like I'm speaking. I'm just talking in general, baseline. So the unit turn, you want space here. You want to put a softball in there. Put a soccer ball. Now, depending on the height of the ball, sure, you might elevate it a little bit more, as Brian was saying, but when you do your unit turn, the hand pass stays the same. Left hand on the racket. Keep the left hand on the racket. If people ask me, what's the #1 mistake you've seen in 25 years? It's on the forehand, it's easy. It's easy. People don't turn enough. I mean, that'd be 1, 2, and 3. And it'd be tied for 4th also. It's like crazy. That's why you see more people, especially more on the female side, and you can know all the kids you teach. This always seems a lot more connected, okay, where there's a lot of crazy stuff that goes on this side. And one time they did a study of the top 30 backhands on the tour, okay, and every one of them had a better backhand than forehand. I think Capriati and Davenport were pretty close, but every single one of them, their backhand was better because biomechanically they were more locked in at a young age. Less can go wrong when you have 2 hands on the racket. So that's why I go back to this shoulder turn. All-time high. You want to feel it, but the kids don't want to do that. You go to here, it won't work. I'm telling you, it's not going to work. You'll go here, and you're going to go to the inside. The next part of the stroke is the key. I do my unit turn, I got the space, 90-degree outside. That's the inside. Outside, inside. Remember what the plan here is. We're going to make the stroke shorter, but we're also going to make it faster. We're going to make it shorter, but we're going to make it faster. When I had Roddy at 10 years old, he took the racket back like this. This is like, I don't know, 1980. He had his elbow real high and the racket was to the outside. And I said, I think your elbow's too high and you're too far to the outside, okay? I'm glad he didn't listen to me, all right? So anyway, he put the racket there, and so he was in the neighborhood, and as time went on, his stroke could be adapted to the speed of the game as he got into pro tennis and so on. And there's many people, even if they're the best junior in the world, they got a helicopter going on here. They might even be playing pro tennis, but it's not world class. And we need to demonstrate or recognize there's a difference between great and good. There's a big difference. I mean, everybody has like a good forehand on the tour, but there's great. They're special. Special doesn't break down as much biomechanically under pressure. So you got the unit turn in this position. Now, when you do the backswing, and Brian said it great, you almost have to chop it up. If you want to teach someone, if you say, do the unit turn and shape it to the outside, and if you watch tennisplayer.net, I talked about tapping the dog here, all right? Don't tap the giraffe or don't pet the dog because the wrist is in the wrong place. You're going to tap the dog, and I'll get into that in a minute. You almost want to chop it up. Many students, if you want to teach this, I would go A, B, and then you have them pull the racket, which I'll get into. If you try to do it all at once, one stop shopping, one bite, it's not going to happen. You're going to go like this, and when they shape it, they're going to go that way. It just doesn't feel natural. I've had kids go like this. A, B, B, pull. A, B, B, pull. A, they did two B's. They tapped the dog twice. They really liked the dog. They went A, B, B, pull. Because they didn't have time to go the other way. It's all physics. The racket head has to be above the wrist. The racket head's above the wrist. You watch any of these guys when they hit the forehand. You watch any of these guys when they hit the forehand. If they don't pull, if they don't do this at the right time when the head's above the wrist, it ain't going to work. If you pull it from this position, it's not going to flip. If it does, it's minimal. There's no flip. It's nothing going to happen this way. It has to be to the outside. And it's the sequencing of movements. Everything has to be in harmony. We can't forget that. It's a flowing type movement, even though you have to chop it up. All right? So A, B. Look where B is. It's at a diagonal. The dog is back here. It's not here. It's a 3/4 swing. The racket head is above the wrist. But you tap the dog. You wouldn't pet the dog. Anybody know why you wouldn't pet the dog? You guess right, you get a free weekend at the Voluntary Tennis Academy. Right? Why wouldn't you want to pet the dog? What now? The racket won't flip. Last time I looked, golf, biomechanically, the clubs above the hands, you get this for free. Baseball, you start to pull, this is going to go faster, it's above. When you don't see people play on the Pro Tour going like this. Okay? They start the leg drive and the hip rotation. This whole thing is synchronized in harmony. They start to pull. If you stop the camera, boom! Somewhere there, John? That's where if you stop the camera, you can almost, boom, you're going to see it every time. Every one of them's tapping the dog. Now, depending on their intention, more spin, less spin, they might be not quite as close. The grip might have a little bit to do with it, but the racket's going to do what we call flip. And because I'm in the trenches, when I started working on a lot of this stuff with Brian a long time ago, when he said the word flip, the first thing I know a lot of you are thinking like flip your wrist. Because that's what I thought. And if I'm thinking it, I know if you guys are thinking, it's nothing to do with the wrist. The wrist has nothing to do with this at all. It's very passive at the end. When you pull the racket, and what I mean by pull it, it's like I got a hold of a rope, and I'm just pulling this way. Remember, what runs the show? The legs and the hips run the show. that activates the stroke. So if you're not going to push on the ground, you're not going to have a lot to offer. And if you don't want to bend, golf. Okay, so you're here. Okay, we're going to pull the hand forward. When I pull my hand, I'm driving my legs. The more you drive, it makes the hips go faster. That's just the way it works, all right? So when this goes faster, this way, the hips are going to rotate very quickly. Now, the racket head, what it does, the racket head, you can't see this on TV. The racket head goes, and a lot of you are going, yeah, you want to point the butt cap at the ball. That's good. That's a good tip, good correction. The difference is this thing hits the slot so fast, you're hitting the slot so fast, the butt cap will be facing the ball, but that has really nothing to do with the stroke also. It's the timing and sequencing of this, pulling when the racket head, it's all physics. When you pull it from the outside, the racket goes. So that's why you see out there on the tour, it looks like they're using their wrist. It looks real flippy. It looks army. It looks real like loosey-goosey. And you know what? They're not trying to do any of this. They're not trying to do any of this. Believe it or not, they're using their legs, their hips, and their trunk. A lot more than this. This just comes in and cleans the show up at the end. That's all this. The muscle mechanics that I'm talking about isn't running the show. It's everything else that's doing this. The leg drive and the hip rotation and the pull. This is going to activate everything. This activates the racket. So the timing has to be good. But you got to pull it when the racket head is above the wrist. Every student, and I'm talking thousands, and I'm talking the best kids in the United States. Doesn't matter if they won the Easter Bowl, the Orange Bowl, Toilet Bowl, whatever they want, I don't know. I can take any student, and if they go this way, and I set them right here, with the racket to the outside, and I pitch them a ball, and I say, what I want you to do is just pull as hard as you can, just pull, and then roll. That's the two words that I want to always remember. Pull and roll are the two big ticket items. You're going to pull and roll. It doesn't matter what level. Number one in the nation, 5-year-old, every single person. Not one person hasn't said the same thing. Every one of them says the same thing. I go, what do you feel? And they say, well, first of them they say, I feel stupid standing here just like that. But once I get by that, they go, I feel my stroke is shorter, and I feel the ball going faster. Every person. It doesn't matter if it's a 5-year-old girl or a girl that's 150 in the world. They all say the same thing. Just from standing there, and I have them pull, they feel this. And you can even hear this sound. Watch this. If I swing, look, just going to pull the racket, and I'm going to do this. I mean, the second one looks smoother. The last time I checked, it's not a beauty contest, all right? And you got to get out of this. If you want to be smooth and flowing and all that, don't get me wrong. Because when you relax, that's really the underlying factor, as someone mentioned today. If you're not relaxed, all right, none of this is going to work anyways. If you're not relaxed in the golf ball, you don't relax. You don't just relax in general, nothing's going to work. So you got to relax. I mean, that's the key to playing at a high level. How intense can you be? Want to tear someone's head off and stay relaxed. I mean, that's the balance of any athlete. You're too tight or you're too relaxed, it's going to work against you. So, when the racket's to the outside, and you heard the difference in the sound. The head of the racket's going faster. So, through all Brian's research, this is what's really going on at the highest level, and the people that were kind of what I call in the neighborhood have been able to adapt. And I've seen people, their rotations on the ball are just 50% more. The racket speed off the charts. But more importantly, it changes their court position. Because remember what I said, at the end of the day, it's much easier to, when the balls come faster and quicker, you're playing on the hitting side of the body, okay, this way. You're playing this way, and just more things are going to go wrong. So when we're out there coaching and say, hey, we want you to hit the ball in front like Federer. I hear that all the time. Or don't put your elbow so close. Or you're always late. First off, your elbow is going to come in. if you're going to swing from this position, and you can do it. I mean, you can win Wimbledon. I'm not saying you couldn't. I mean, on the men's tour, you can't. There's no way. You can swing like this, but you're never going to hit the ball out here. There's no way. It's impossible. The elbow's got to come back in because you're swinging in a semicircle. These guys are playing on this side of the body because they have no choice. If they were in the neighborhood, they've adapted their stroke. The pros lead the teachers, and we learn from them. All right? No one out there told better to tap the dog. Okay, trust me. But this is what we kind of put together, a methodology of how to do this. So in a nutshell, rewind it. There's a lot of stuff I want to get into today. Your unit turn is critical, and you got to get space. Kids don't even want to do that. They'd rather be in here, playing a guitar or whatever. I don't just want to be in here. You got to make them be here. Now you got to start. Now from here, if you can have them shape it, like Brian was saying, and just get elbow extension, that's great. Because you wouldn't tap the dog like this. You're not going to tap the dog like that. You go, well, you might, but good dog. You're going to tap him like that. Your arm's going to extend. You want the elbow to extend. You can't keep telling someone for 4 years your elbow's too close, or you're playing with the chicken wing. You can't keep telling them that. They're going to keep the elbow close. I'd rather have the chicken leg than the chicken wing, okay? Here, okay? This is the position. You come out of it, and when you pull it, it's going to straighten on its own. If you relax and you pull the hand, the racket head goes down and back. That's what we call the flip. And it hits the slot just so powerful. And then at the end, when they pull, the elbow position, and it wasn't talked about this morning, one of the biggest problems, some people can do this, and they make it flip, but then they bring the elbow back in. The key is maintaining this elbow angle to this position. And there's 25 corrective techniques that I could talk about. We don't have enough time just when I see these things occur. But the key is maintaining that elbow angle here and turn it over. And you can say, well, that kind of looks like someone I know. Okay, and this is what happens. Same thing with the Dow. People have no idea how Federer's and the Dow's forehand is so much alike, you have no idea. And a lot of you are probably going, what the heck was that about? Would you agree with that, John?
Fundamentals.
That's what I meant, fundamentally. You're going to see Rafa, same thing. He pulls, arm is here, racket head's above, the flip, when he pulls, way out here, his arm's there. Because he's hitting more topspin,
His shoulder
okay,
isn't there.
always this is a flare. That's window dressing and has nothing to do with anything. Nothing to do with anything. But all these guys are much further in front. Now, it was talked about this morning a little bit about the heavy ball. Everybody knows what topspin is, or what we think topspin is. You swing low to high, and you get topspin. All right, that's vanilla topspin. Okay, that's what I call it, vanilla. There's a difference between topspin and the true heavy ball. You cannot get the true heavy ball swinging from this position. It's just physics. There's no way it's going to happen. The way you make the ball, running by the heavy ball, if you're swinging from the outside and you can turn the racket over, what happens is this: when you pull it, the racket goes down and back. Now the racket's going to come straight at the ball, the hand path. Now I have the option to move the racket this way. I can move the racket vertical, and that's what you see. They turn it back over. It hits here, and they turn it back over the other way. If the racket comes from this position, you got to manufacture the topspin. You can still hit topspin, but it's not going to be the true heavy ball if you don't have the flip. And that's just the way it is. So you get that for free. You're going to get more spin and more power with this stroke. And if the balls come faster, it's easier. And if you want to hit the ball on the rise, it's better than someone saying, shorten your stroke because the ball's coming fast. You can shorten your stroke and go out there and play like that, but it ain't going to work if you really want to develop. And the reason why this is a problem, people want to take the racket back farther, all right? And if they can do it halfway decent, they stick with it. It's very hard to change muscle memory. It's been my experience just teaching just all kinds of ages and levels and seeing it every which way. It's so hard. And so you just do the best you can. And the reason why this is critical, I just feel, unless they change the rules of the game, it's going to get faster and faster. And stroke mechanics will be at an all-time high. And people should be willing to change. I mean, they change the mechanics all the time on the golf tour. I mean, they're changing their mechanics all the time. But I just think since you have, as a role model and a teacher and a coach, you have so much influence over who you got in front of you. Now, if it's a poor old lady, she might not want to do this probably. They might want to try. You got to make that call. That's your decision. I'm not telling you to do it. And there's people I teach that swing from here. They don't want to do it. They're not going to have the best possible forehand they could have had. I'm just saying, it's never going to be optimal. But they can still be very good. There's nothing the matter with that. Now, when you pull their hand, back to this. When you pull the hand, the racket flips. At the end, you want to think roll. And I've put this in some videos before. It's the same concept. It's like turning a doorknob. All right? So you're going to pull, and just turn the doorknob. Pull, roll. It's not this. It's not with the wrist. And Brian explained this so well. It's from in here that's going to happen. It's not the wrist. You see this stuff on TV. It looks like they're doing this. Believe me, they're way out here, and it's not with the hand. The hand path is critical, but it's not this stuff that occurs. It's all coming from in here. That's the stroke. So you want to think pull and roll. Or you want to think pull, turn the doorknob. Or have you ever seen Karate Kid Part 1? Pull, wax on. Right. Some of you might be too. So pull, wax on, out here. I'm not going to get into over the shoulder, over the head, into the left pocket, around. There's the intention of where you're at on the court, the speed of the ball. There's so many mitigating factors that go into the follow-through. As a coach, you got to figure out, try this, do that, ba, ba, ba. It's so situational, it's not one size fits all. So, recap, forehand. Unit turn, keep the left hand on the racket, all the way back. This is key from a teacher's point of view. We found out less goes wrong. Less goes wrong. Make him keep it onto there. You're going to let go. As John said, on the forehand ground stroke, the left arm's going to stretch more than on the return of serve. You want to do this for a couple reasons. Number one, it's going to keep you into the shot longer. And number two, if this is synchronized right, this is more in harmony, you'll hit it more in front. Sideways more, okay, you're going to hit it more in front. The left arm, as people get excited, they bail out of this thing so quickly. Keeping that left hand across is huge. Don't do this. This isn't 1988 where you're going to put the hand like this. All right? Go here. This is where we're looking for it. Elbow up, elbow extension. And if you got to teach it in choppiness, do it. But you got to get them to feel this. And I guarantee if you hand feed people and you have them start like this and you tell them pull and roll, every one of them's going to say the same thing. I feel my racket head going faster and my stroke is shorter. Mail it in. Thousands have told me the same thing. Now you go to the next progression, you got to feed them. Next progression, you hit with them. The next progression, practice set. Next progression, go to a match. See, you got to go down the yellow brick road to really find out where you're at in this. And it always breaks down under pressure. I see kids hit, 5,000 balls perfect with Brian, and they come and play a match and they do 5,000 the other way. But you know what? You get back on the horse, you keep going. Because at the end of the day, if you're a little better mechanically, it lasts a lifetime. Unfortunately, if you're bad, so does that. So that's a better way to hit the forehand. I'm not saying there's a wrong way or a right way, but this is the most optimal way, the most efficient way to hit a forehand ground stroke, to get more racket head speed with a shorter stroke. And by the way, best players on the ATP Tour do this. So I'm not telling you to do it because Ned does it, Joker does it, any of these guys do it. I'm just saying, by the way, they do it, and I think they all have some potential. With that being said, all right, now on the backhand ground stroke, I've been very fortunate to have a lot of people that had a very good backhand. Some of them already had a great stroke before I started working with them. Capriati, Messina, Pierce, Sharapova. Serena's was pretty good. Venus is kind of was funky the way she did hers. Vince Spadea had a good backhand. A lot of people have a good backhand. But as I sit here today, 2013, and teach a two-handed backhand, I wouldn't teach it the way I did back then. And it's all predicated on the speed of the game. Okay? Once again, preparation is at an all-time high. How you prepare for the shot is huge. The problem with the two-handed backhand The problem with the two-handed backhand is you can over-rotate in the preparation phase because it's more trunk-orientated, and you can get away with still having a good backhand. That's the problem. So you got a little more wiggle room. If someone has a great backhand and you think it's great and whatever, fine. I think if you definitely have a boy, they have to hit it the way I'm going to explain. I think if a girl's very rhythmic, they might not want to change the stroke. But here's what happens. As soon as the ball comes, after the split step, you're going to see the hand pat, the shoulders. Once again, take the racket back. The hand path is relatively low. A lot of you, I wouldn't recommend, getting your hands up high to make a loop. There's no benefit. Just because, listen, if you do something enough, you can perfect being crummy. But at the end of the day, you just perfected crummy, and it's still crummy. But crummy works sometimes. I'm just saying, there's no reason. Compactness, simplicity, shortness, it's at an all-time high. The game's much different than when a lot of these people I had even in the early 90s. It's a whole different animal out there. That's why you're seeing open stance backhand. If you don't believe in it, you're not watching enough television, because you got to hit off the left foot. Very interesting, not to get sidetracked here. There's an article in the New York Times that Tim Mayotte wrote, and I don't know if anybody saw it. He criticized Harrison and Roddick about their two-handed backhand, and I nicely forwarded it to Andy, and he emailed me back, and he kind of agreed a lot about the ability of Nadal and Djokovic and these guys being able to hit offensively off the left foot, where he doesn't feel good about it. You're just Harrison. When you're playing someone out there that's running all day, a part animal, and they want to hit 30 in a row, you have to be able to hit off either foot and keep grinding. So, as a teaching tool, to step into the ball is good, but you don't want to pigeonhole someone that they don't feel comfortable getting out there and hitting off the left foot all the time and getting a quality shot. But back to the two-handed backhand. The hand path, you do the unit turn, the hands go back. You notice I didn't talk about the grip on anything. There's a lot of different ways to hold the racket. This really isn't about the grip. As I said, this does orientate the racket face. So as a coach, teacher, you should always look at the grip, because that could be why the balls are going up or down or right or left. So the grip does play into this, but not into the stroke mechanics. Okay, it just influences the racket head. So you take it back. You want to feel a stretch. Here we go again, in the right shoulder. I want you to take the racket back. We want you to take the racket back as far as you can. As far as you can, the left arm, it's going to be straight, but it's going to be relaxed. It's going to be straight, but it's going to be relaxed. As far as you can. But notice when I said as far as I can, it's not as far as I can this way. It's not as far as I can that way. It's when I take it back as far as I can, where's the racket going to? Outside. The outside. Remember what the plan is. We're going to reduce the radius of the swing, and we're going to make the stroke shorter, but we also want to make it faster. That's the name of the game. That's why you see Murray and Djokovic, Wimbledon, they're just going boom, boom, boom. Some attractive speed, you can hear it through the speaker over there. Watch. And if you watch Agassi, it looked like at the end of his career, it's like he's just standing there. And you see someone else out there going, I mean, it works, but it can take a little longer. That's all I'm saying. And it's efficiency of motion. So, right arm, all the way back, straight. And this is key. Back, not here. If you're 80%, 70%, you're going to do what we call bubble loop. Not that you can't do that, but that's not the stroke we're talking about. If you're going to do something like this, all right, and the elbow goes behind, then that's just kind of a lefty forehand. Nothing matter of that, you can do that type of backhand. But the best of the best, Fish, Djokovic, Rafter, okay, Nadal, Agassi, Safin, the guys that say that some of the best backhands in the last 5-6 years, put them side by side, it's like cloning. If they're so